The first type of cognitive complex that we are going to learn is metacognition. In this video, the learning objective of this video is that after watching and learning this video, you'll be able to explain how people's metacognitive knowledge and skills influence their learning and academic achievement. You will also be able to explain how you can promote metacognitive development in your own students. Then let's first look at the definition of metacognition. So meta means over. So it's cognition about cognition, or thinking about thinking. In a nutshell, metacognition is knowledge and beliefs about cognitive processes. So it controls your thinking, and by practicing metacognition, you engage in behaviors that facilitate thinking and learning. And promoting metacognition is important because students with metacognitive awareness are likely to use more effective learning strategies and have high achievement. Then let's brainstorm metacognition metacognitively. Let's briefly think about these questions. How would you describe your own metacognition? Maybe you can think about it for 30 seconds metacognitively. Then the next question I want to ask is, are you more metacognitive in some situations or subjects than others? So you are more aware of your own cognition and thinking processes, let's say in this class in psychological perspectives in education compared to other courses. The last question, I want you to think about whether you have had a teacher that actually helped you improve your metacognition, even if they didn't tell you that's what they were doing. So even though they did not explicitly tell you that, oh, I'm going to improve your metacognition, was there a teacher that helped you improve your metacognition? Maybe I can share an example of a teacher that I had in my high school. So there was a teacher who always emphasized the table of contents, where all the contents are kind of organized as an outlook in the very first page of the book. He had students write down the table of contents because I did not know back then why he had students write this kind of table of contents. I thought it was quite obvious, but come to think of it, I thought he kind of wanted to have the grasp of the picture in general and know the organization of the course content. And that was actually helpful to think about those kind of content because it kind of served as a structure. So I think that was one example where one of my past teachers tried to make me metacognitively think about my cognitive processes. If we have students use their metacognition about learning, in other words, that also means that we are helping them to learn to use learning strategies. So in the previous chapter, where we covered learning, cognition, and memory, we have talked about learning strategies, right? Meaningful strategies and rote learning strategies. Here, learning strategies are classified in a different way, so in terms of metacognition. So they're a little bit different from meaningful and rote learning strategies. As there are many theories, learning strategies can be classified depending on based on different theories. So here we are going to look at how we can help students use learning strategies in terms of metacognition. So broadly, learning strategies can be divided into overt and covert strategies. The examples of overt strategies are note-taking. Maybe some of you are already doing note-taking, highlighting, creating summaries. And the examples of covert strategies are planning, monitoring, and evaluating. Then let's look at effective learning strategies in more detail. Learning strategies are intentional approaches to learning and remembering. Overt strategies are specific behaviors that are observable. Examples of these can be having students create calendars and schedules for their learning and work, because they can regulate their own cognitive processes with these kind of schedules and calendars. We can have students ask questions when they are confused, promoting their help-seeking behavior. We can also teach them how to take notes and create summaries, because these learning strategies can help make their learning more robust and solid. The covert strategies are internal mental processes. So planning, we can have students think about why they are doing this activity, or what they already know that will help them to learn that concept. And we can ask students also questions like, what do I want it to look like once I'm done? Or what should I do first, next, and so on. So we can help students plan their learning. We can also help them monitor their learning by having them ask questions such as, how am I doing? Am I on the right track? Or like, how should I keep going? Am I getting close to my goal? So we can have students monitor their processes, learning processes, with these kind of questions. We can also have students evaluate their own learning after certain learning outcomes are produced. We can ask students questions like, how well did you do? Or did you do better or worse than you thought? What could you have done differently? So these kind of questions prompt your students to evaluate their own learning, and with this kind of metacognitive covert strategies, students are more likely to succeed in their learning, because they're more they're more conscious about their learning processes. These are some examples of how we can promote students' metacognitive skills. So KWL chart, where we have students write what they know about, want to know about, and what they finally learned. So students can classify the knowledge into different types of categories, and solidify what they want to know, and they can also evaluate whether they learned the concept or not. The other examples would be like secondary writing guide. So as you can see, this cycle of like pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing, and publishing, with this kind of schedule and plan, students can get how the writing should be done and the process of writing. Another example is self-evaluation. We can have students rate these kind of categories and have them think about their learning processes while evaluating their own performance or products. Another topic that is mentioned in this metacognitive session in the textbook is epistemic beliefs. I personally think this isn't as important as metacognition, but this may be a little difficult concept, so I kind of want to briefly explain about what epistemic beliefs are. So epistemic beliefs are beliefs about the nature of knowledge and learning. So whereas metacognition is cognition about cognition or thinking about thinking, epistemic beliefs are beliefs about the nature of knowledge and learning. So the questions that are related to epistemic beliefs involve, what is knowledge? Is it permanent or changing? Is it absolute or relative? Or who has access to it? So when students are young, they tend to indulge those epistemic beliefs that knowledge is certain and absolute. However, as students get older, they become to be endorse epistemic beliefs that knowledge is generated by human mind and is uncertain. And that is that is a process I've been experiencing. So when I first joined the graduate student program, I thought that I know so much about like cognition, motivation, and all these kind of psychological aspects. But as I do more learning and as I do more research, I feel like, oh my god, I'm knowing less and less. Things are so uncertain, and things are so much co-constructed by like so many interactions, so many like factors. So I become to I wouldn't frame it as developmental progression, but as I become to know more about the like educational psychology, I become to endorse epistemic beliefs that are more fluid, like they are more flexible. And not surprisingly, teachers' epistemic beliefs can be directly aligned with instruction and transferred to students' epistemic beliefs through classroom practices. For instance, if you like emphasize the authority and phrase like teach the content as if that is the only truth, then it's likely that students believe that knowledge is absolute and it's permanent. However, if you do a lot of discussion activities and emphasize that knowledge can be changed and is socially determined, students may endorse more flexible epistemic beliefs. What is more important than knowing the definition of epistemic beliefs is how we can help students develop productive epistemic beliefs. Maybe you can talk with students about how knowledge involves not only knowing facts, concepts, and ideas, but also understanding interrelationships among these things. And I've been trying to do this in my class to emphasize that learning requires active construction of knowledge. So it is not just you jotting down and memorizing what I explain in the lecture videos, but also like how you can apply this knowledge to your future classrooms and to your own learning. We can also talk with students how knowledge doesn't always mean having clear-cut answers to difficult, complex issues. So I sometimes post questions that do not necessarily have right or wrong answers. And there are other strategies that you can refer to in the slide. One caveat that I want to mention is that um, discussing these themes with students who are not developmentally ready, I mean those students who are young, uh, may actually not be helpful for their learning. Can you guess why? Because these young students do not have enough prior knowledge where new knowledge can be anchored into. So, for instance, they may need to have a solid understanding of addition, like 1 plus 1 equals 2, 2 by 4 equals 8. Having them have like flexible epistemic beliefs about these kind of basic rules and basic rules and facts may not be facilitated for their learning. So while I think it's generally considered better to have students more flexible epistemic beliefs, because then they tend to be more active in their learning, not just jotting down and memorizing what teacher said. Sometimes this kind of memorization and having a solid knowledge about certain facts can be beneficial for students' learning.